Welcome to Leadership Tales with Tales, the show where we go beyond leadership as a concept and get to know leaders as people. Hosted by Julie C. Henry, with Tasman Henry and Kepler Henry. We talk to leaders across industries and across generations to bust stereotypes and get at the core of what it really means to lead. So grab a cup of coffee, head for your hammock, and join us for unedited, unfiltered conversation that is always wild.
Hello and welcome to the first ever podcast episode of Leadership Tales with Tales. I'm Julie C. Henry.
And I'm Tasman Henry.
And we're so excited to invite you into our home studio, which we know is not perfect this first run out, but in the spirit of everything unedited, unfiltered, and really real life, because it's about leadership in real life across generations and across industries as we get to the heart of what it really means to lead. So today we just want to, again, welcome you and talk about why we think this is a good idea to start talking about leadership in real life. So when you think about leadership and you think about, let's say, the connection with animals, I mean, we're calling this podcast Leadership Tales with Tales. Why are we doing that? What do you think from your perspective?
Oh man, I think it's just such a unique connection. There are hundreds of thousands of leadership books out there, and there's so many that I've seen being in this world with you. But we're such outdoorsy people, and it's just so into our world. And it's really exciting to be able to bring our audience there with us, because obviously we can't take everybody hiking, we can't take everybody backpacking, we can't take everybody scuba diving, but if we tell stories about that and how we learned from it, they're able to make those connections by themselves and alongside us, and maybe be encouraged to step outdoors and learn a little bit more for themselves.
Okay, so that's a good segue, since, I gave you some questions that we might talk about. Now I'm going to ask you a question that we didn't talk at all about. But if we could take everybody someplace with us right now, someplace in the world, where would we go?
Panama.
Ooh, okay, why?
Lots of options, lots of adventures, and you really have to trust your instincts. From my trip experience, I was scuba diving. We were not exactly hiking, but lots of walks down muddy slopes to get to wells, things like that. So you really have to just trust your team and trust your instincts when you're 60 feet underwater for the first time in a new country. So I think it just has the most options. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. And everybody needs to experience that, like, I'm in a rainforest. What do I do?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay, so since I know you well, I get to call you out sometimes, because I know you don't call me out, which is what it's all about. Because you like to do things good the first time.
I do.
And did you do everything right the first time in Panama?
And that's why I think everybody needs to experience it. Yeah, I very much like having things perfect. I like being good at things. I don't like board games that are difficult for me to understand.
That's fair.
But I think that is exactly why I loved it so much, is because it was so far outside of my comfort zone. It was so different. It was so unexpected. And there was absolutely nothing I could control there. And I had real life worries. It wasn't who's looking at my social media. It wasn't where's my phone. It's how am I going to cook food for these 15 people for the whole day? It's where do I go to get water to flush the toilet? There's real things to be concerned about there. And you just have to experience it. So that's why I think everyone should go.
So that's really interesting. And has there been a time, since you went last year?
I did.
So it's been almost a full year.
It has.
And you came back and you just finished senior year, graduated high school. And you, from a very young age, have been told you're a leader all the time. Why do you think people tell you that?
Because I fit the typical model of a leader. Lots of times in movies and books and all these other leadership books, a leader is portrayed as someone who is extroverted, someone who is confident, someone who takes charge, and who likes to talk a lot, which all describes me. And I fit that bill a lot. So just because I'm willing to volunteer for these tasks, I'm willing to lead a group project, I'm always going to be the first to jump on something like that, they're going to describe me as a leader. But that's really frustrating sometimes, because not only is that absolutely not true, and I mean, we've had all these conversations that leaders come in all different forms, and you don't have to be an extrovert to be a leader by any means. But then it also forces me to take that role constantly. It's always my job. It's always my responsibility because of my personality, which is totally weird, and I'll totally take it. But, you know, sometimes there are introverted kids who have much more creative ideas than I do, because I'm not in that world at all. I'm an analytical, logical person. But there are always kids in the group that have different ideas than me that could solve the problem a lot better, but they're not given the opportunity to, just because they're more soft-spoken, which is really frustrating. But
so that's really good self-assessment. I think that's really brave. You know, when we talk about leadership, when we talk about being brave and really being honest about things that you are good at, things that you need people's opinions on or help with, or times when you can step back, want to step back, even if people are constantly looking to you, just sometimes by default, sometimes because you do have the best idea, but sometimes because you're just the person willing to stand up and say, oh my gosh, we just have to make a decision, which of course is great. But did you find a situation sometime in the last year, let's say, since you came back from Panama, in which you felt uncomfortable, but maybe because you had been in a country and in a situation with people you didn't know well, with no running water, no electricity, super far from home, no technology, no phones were locked away in a totally different country. So did you find yourself in a situation somehow, or even just a conversation in the last year, that maybe there was a part of your brain that thought, oh, I can handle this, or I can anchor this because I, you know, when someone was in the bathroom, it was the brooms were crossed. That's how you knew someone was in the bathroom. There were no doors, there were no windows. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, man, the hardest thing for me in Panama was we had different roles that we'd switch through every day. So someone was the cook, someone was taking notes for the day, someone's job was literally just to remind us to drink water. That was a fun one. But somebody would be the captain for the day, and they were in charge of everything, communicating between the teachers and the students, getting people ready to go, like the fit the bill leader for the day. And that was a really hard job for me, because I was so into all of the different jobs that I had to help out with, that my teachers had to remind me, you can delegate these tasks. You can have everybody else help you. You don't have to do it all. Like, but I can. I can sweep. I can fill up waters. I can tell people to eat. I can do this. And they're like, but you have a team to help you. So that was really difficult the first day. And then I shifted through being captain again and got it down. But I was a leader of a team at my school, and the same thing happened. I was feeling really stressed, and I had all of these responsibilities to do, and I was trying to handle them all myself. The creative aspect, the logistical aspect, figuring out music and speakers and all these different things. And I had to just take a minute, say, I have a team for this. I have people to help me. I do not have to do this by myself. So that was, I don't know if I could have made that connection if I hadn't been on this trip, if I hadn't had that real life experience. But delegating tasks was definitely a struggle for me. And I'm really, really grateful for that experience, because it totally helped me this past year. And I know it will later. Because when you're on a team, it's not just you. There's other people there.
Yeah. Well, and to everyone who's listening and watching and thinking about your leadership journey, I'm sure none of you have had that experience at all. And if you can't see my face, I'm giving you the side eye, which is the mom side eye, to say, of course we've had that experience. And maybe you've been waiting to be delegated to, and you're frustrated because you can help. And maybe you're the person who you just think you can do it all, or just want to do it all because you want to help. I mean, it comes from a good place. But I can tell you 2 days ago, I was talking to a very senior leader at an organization, and his main takeaway from our time talking together was that he needs to delegate more. So this is not something that you'll fix at 17 years old. I can tell you we'll probably have a conversation when you're 18 and you'll say, oh, I should delegate more. Because at 50, I think, oh, I should delegate more. I could delegate more. Actually, we're not allowed to say should. We have to ban that word, because that just feels shame, like we're going to feel shame and guilt around that. We can delegate more, and we acknowledge and accept where we are, no matter what. It's all about progress and potential, I always say. But leadership is, what I say, it's a critical thinking skill.
Yeah.
It's a choose your own adventure activity. And the wonderful thing is that there's no rule book.
You read my mind.
That was scary. Oh, it's like we have tendrils.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. We were able to read part of our manuscript in my AP Lang class. So I was able to talk about these things with my classmates, these different leadership skills.
The book we're writing,
yes. So it was really interesting for me because when people ask me, like, how do you view leadership? I have a much different answer than the rest of my class because I have you in my life and in my house.
Yeah.
So I hear all of your, opinions on leadership and how everybody's their own leader. And I have known that for years, and it's just been my view of it for forever. But I was realizing through those homework assignments that not everybody in my class agrees.
Yeah.
And that not everybody sees it that way. So I was able to have really, really interesting conversations. Like, leadership is not a step-by-step how-to. There's no 5 steps to being a perfect leader, or use these 6 tools or these 7 phrases. There's nothing like that. I mean, we're both very similar people and we're similar leaders, but my brother is not at all like us in the fact that he's super introverted and he's super creative, and we're not in that way, but he's still an incredible leader. And we're able to see that, and it's really, really exciting for me to talk to people who haven't had that experience or who haven't made that connection yet, to be able to tell them that's not actually how it works. Everybody's a leader already. It's not future leaders. It's current.
Yeah.
It's today.
Yeah, right
it's
now.
who you are right now.
Yeah.
You don't have to change anything. You can just learn how to harness your skills better.
That's true.
It's already there.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad you had that experience, because I feel like I continue to have that experience. Like, even though I teach it, sometimes you teach the things that you need to keep learning.
For sure.
And I like to say that I can tell you 10 ways to deal with conflict, and then you're going to need number 11. Because I remember very distinctly being a leader. Gosh, I think I was pregnant with you. I think I was this big.
18 years ago.
almost 18 years ago. And I guess I would have been 18.
It was 18.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because so I was really pregnant, and I ran into a situation that I needed to make a lot of decisions very quickly at the same time. And I kind of knew about this one, and I might have had experience in this one, and this one was maybe familiar, but put them all together, it was immediately stressful, and I was super pregnant. And so I didn't really have a filter and not a lot of patience. It was really hot. It was the summer, and I was giant. All the things that pull together.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, what book did I read about this? What would my mentor do?
Yeah.
I need to listen to a podcast. I need to jump on a webinar. I'm not sure, but it was me. And in that moment, something had to be done. Something immediately was that kind of situation. And I had a choice. I could wait for someone else to give me opinions, and sometimes that's what you do as leaders. But that particular scenario needed a decision then by a person who was not only in charge, but who could accept responsibility for the consequences of that decision. And that is a big deal as well.
Yeah.
And I made it the best I could. Not everybody was happy with my decision. Also happens as a leader. I mean, since then, everybody's been happy with every decision I've ever made.
Oh, me too.
100%, especially in parenting. But I'll never forget. I'll never forget those scenarios in your head it's like these core memories, these formative core memories around leadership. And I think that's what really started me on this trail of oh my gosh, I have to help people recognize that it's a trail guide instead of a rule book.
Yeah.
Because there's bends in the road, there's turns in the river you can't see coming. How can you? Because we're people. I mean, it's like all the koalas and orangs and octopus and giraffes around us. They didn't read the books either. So when they have behavior that's different than what we think they're going to do, What comes next?
Well, they know.
Yeah, that's not, well, or not, right? That's all instinctual.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's what makes them such great teachers is we just see their work. We don't see them, overthinking all these things. We don't see the behind the scenes. We just know that these animals know how to work together. These animals know how to get a job done. Yeah. So obviously they know what they're doing. Yeah. They're successful. They're able to survive and thrive wherever they are. So yeah. And it's just more fun to have stuffed animals fun.
I mean, come on. All right, so I'm going to close this out by asking you 2 prompts that are related. And because I want you to think about, so if any of you are listening or watching that you're in a transition in your life, Tasman's transition happens to be that she just graduated high school and is going to go off to college here in a few months and is having her first internship, professional internship, and getting her first restaurant job. So a lot of things all happening together. So if any of you find yourself in that scenario in your life where there's a transition or a transition about to happen, then you could be excited about it or maybe not. Sometimes it's not your choice. But the 2 things I'd like for you to think about, I'm going to ask Tasman to answer, is regarding leadership and in your journey. I used to think, pause, fill in the blank, and now I wonder. So based in where you are right now today, I used to think, and now I wonder. So where are you? And if you're listening, think about that while Tasman's taking a beat here and thinking as well. What would your answers be? I used to think about leadership, about my journey, and now I wonder.
Oh, man. This is a hard question. Oh, well. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a really unique standpoint on my view of leadership because I have a teacher in the house. Mm-hmm. But I used to think that my leadership style and strategies would be set in stone by now. They're very much not. My personality still is. Yeah. But now I wonder what these different experiences are going to have to teach me. Oh. Like you mentioned, my internship versus my restaurant job. It's going to be different working in a chem lab and being a busser. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I'm interested to see what the connections are going to be between the 2. Mm-hmm. If it's going to be time management, teamwork, both ways, just getting my hands dirty. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited to see what those skills and strategies are, how they're going to adapt as I move into college. And in college, I'm looking forward to seeing, again, how that adapts with what I'm going to join, with what I plan to do in my free time, and even just in my classes, much bigger classes, how I'm going to stay my extroverted leader, take charge, ask questions self. Coming from a really small high school, 2 kids in a calculus class, to college, 45 kids in a calculus class. Mm-hmm. So I'm really interested to see how that not changes my leadership style, but adapts it and how it'll shift and grow and mature to be able to fit that different audience. So I'm looking forward to that.
And of course, you know what I'm going to say. I want you to shift and grow and mature and evolve. But I don't want you to mature past your childlike wonder. So that's what we'll end with, is that no matter where you are on your journey, we hope and encourage and challenge you to retain childlike curiosity, childlike wonder. Because when we are a kid, and arguably at 17, 18, are you a kid still? Maybe not. At 50, am I still a kid?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, I'll climb a playground any day long and find Kepler up there as well.
Let's do it.
But when you're a child and when you're growing, you ask a lot of questions by default and you wonder because you don't know. And then we get older and we feel like we should know. There's that word again. But why? Don't lose that sense of wonder. Don't lose that curiosity. Don't lose those questions, because that's what makes you who you are and your unique contribution to where you are. But also that makes you the leader that you are. And leadership, really, it's about questions. We want it to be about answers. We want it to be about rule books.
It's not.
It's questions and it's trail guides. So until next time, Tasman and Julie, we want to say thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you out on the leadership trail.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Leadership Tales with Tales. Thanks so much for joining us. If you enjoyed our podcast, make sure to hit follow, leave a review, share it, or connect with us on social. We can be found on all the major platforms, unless we're on a side quest adventuring somewhere in the world. Until next time, keep leading in the way you were born to lead, and head outdoors to explore.